How to sell one call close solar effectively. Now, you need two things. The assumption is that you have those two things in place already. One is a source to get your leads. The other one is a company or a team that can produce or actually put the solar in and do that portion. What I'm talking about is the part right in the middle, which is arguably the most important part. It's also the most valuable. It's the place that gets paid the most, and that's why I like to focus on that area, which is closing the deal, being able to close that customer at a high margin and close effectively, regularly at a high ratio. Okay. The first thing that is important to being able to close effectively is a real dedication to the one call close method. At first, it may seem a little bit foreign. It may be a little bit scary if you're used to selling in a two-call close method. But to really stick to that one call method, to be very when you're with your customer can tell if you're not dedicated to the one call close. They are going to know that they can call you back in a couple of days, and they're going to push you. Even if you're a one call close master, sometimes your customers are going to push you because they don't want that one call close. They don't want to make a decision. They want to let that decision slide past. But you're not going to let that happen. But you need to really dedicate yourself to that. That this is the price that you're getting today. And this is the 1-year price, and those are the two things, and the two do not mix. When I walk away today, you're not going to get that, today price, but really dedicating yourself to that. A couple of things with it. Scheduling wise, the way that I like to operate a company is to have the scheduling team, my phone callers, that first part, the production. Wherever we're getting those leads, that there's somebody there that's scheduling them as well, who's not me. Okay, so they're taking care of setting up my appointments. I run appointments at 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 6 o'clock. And what that does is it allows me to run, if I run a 10 o'clock appointment, and it gives me enough time to be able to do the presentation and close it or not close it. If I do close it, a lot of times that one will bleed over into my 2 o'clock appointment, and I'll have to actually push the 2 o'clock appointment to 3 or whatever. But the ratios are that if I'm not closing it, I should be out of there. I should have been able to make the determination whether am not going to close it. So even sometimes there, if it's again, if it's a big fish that I'm fighting, I may stay and even have to push my 2 o'clock appointment out, or my 6 o'clock appointment, my next appointment, push it out because I think that there's something there with this current customer. But usually if it's not going to close, I know, and I can get out and get off to my next appointment. And that's why we space them at those time periods. I don't like to run appointments on Friday afternoons because the Hero office actually closes early, and Friday evening. So at 6 o'clock on Friday, I typically won't want to run. 6 o'clock on Saturday, I typically don't like to run then either, because a lot of times the customers are not, you get a lot of cancellations. So what I like to do is I like to run the ones where there's the least cancellation possibility, which is not Saturday night. And Friday nights I don't like to run because there have been several times when I've run and closed a deal, but then Hero's not available, and so I end up the next morning having to try and clean up and get the Hero signatures and all of that, and that just puts a lot of stress on me. And it also, it just makes it so that you can't actually do the one call close effectively on those times. Also, Mondays typically are light days, and those are the days that I like to take off because they may have been scheduling those on Saturday or Friday, and so a lot of those fall apart, and a lot of times that your Mondays will be an ineffective day. So that's the way I like to do it, and that's, you've kind of gotten a chance to see behind the curtain of me working as a one call close agent within a company structure. Now I know that you may be a one-person operation, and that's fine. You can do all of these things as well. But it just means that you're going to have to be generating your own leads. You're going to have to be doing that production. You can still use the one call close method, and you can adapt those things. I like to do it where there are different people that are in charge of the different functions, where I can focus my attention on being just a one call closer. I can then make the most money possible because of just focusing on what my skill level is. You probably know this, but the highest paid people in our society are salespeople after entertainers, of course. And so entertainers include the baseball and the football players and the movie stars and all of those entertainers. They make the most amount of money. It's the people whose salespeople are the next highest in our society. So if you can make it a kind of a combination of that, where you're entertaining your customer, you are getting kind of the best of both worlds, because you're using a method of really getting the emotions of the customer, entertaining that customer, and getting them to buy. You can make a lot of money by doing that. Now, the methods that I'm going to show you that you're learning right now are going to get you what I call the 30-30. It's basically a 30% closing ratio, or about one in three deals you're going to be closing, the ones that you present. Okay, there are some other ratios. There's a section that talks about the ratios, the closing ratios, and you'll want to review that as well. But basically, when I go out on an appointment, I want about 60% of the time to be presenting. The other 40% is a one leg, a no-show. The customer's not there. They don't have enough time. One of those issues, and so that's the 40%. I want to be presenting at about 60%, and then if you use the methods that I'm teaching you within this program, you will be getting around a one in three closing ratio. Okay. Now, once you have that 1 in 3 closing ratio, there are things that you can do to kick yourself up to that 50% closing ratio. And those are what I call the 50-50. I have 50 of those items. You'll see them here in the program. But those 50 items, if you do those consistently, you'll be able to push yourself out of that 30% closing ratio up into that 50% closing ratio with no decline in income. You're still going to be selling at the same margins. And all of that, and that's the other portion that's important, is that you're keeping a high margin on the work. That you're not selling. The one call close is beautiful because it allows you to get away from that commoditization that exists in solar. One of the worst things that's out there is that there's this talk about dollars per watt, and it's the most ridiculous thing, because it's not really comparing apples to apples. Once you know how to sell, you're going to be selling, a better system. So, a dollar per dollar, if you're buying the cheapest, absolute cheapest, panel made in China for, $3 a watt, is that comparable to, paying $6 a watt for the absolute best equipment with the best inverters that's going to get you better production over time? And people have just kind of forgotten this. They've sort of commoditized solar instead of breaking it down into what it really is, where you can have that quality. If you can build value, then you can sell it at the higher levels, and that's what I recommend. I'm not teaching you how to sell solar at a discount, at rock bottom prices. You can do that without one call close methods. You probably will go out of business too, because you don't have enough margins to make the business sustainable. And I think that's a big flaw in the industry right now. I'm going to be teaching you how to sell at a really high level, where your customer is very happy to pay that price because they know of the value that they're getting, and it takes some time, but that's what we're going to be talking about here, and that's really what you need to do to effectively sell solar. Is you have to be really building that value. You have to be defining the problem really well, which is that they're paying to their utility, and that rates are going up, whatever those problems are, and that's all in the heart of this program. But those are the main things, that you focus yourself onto a dedication to one call close, and hopefully you can get rid of the production portion of actually putting the systems in, and you can get get away from the generation of leads portion and get a source of good leads that you can close. That's where you can make the most money as a one call close salesperson. Okay, good luck out there. I'll look forward to hearing from you and seeing you on our or hearing you on the calls in the coming weeks.